Ladies and gentlemen, Asian guy here. Something just broke in the precious metals market. Something that was never supposed to see daylight. And when I show you what leaked from the vaulting industry this morning, you're going to understand why three major bullion banks went dark on their trading desks at exactly the same time. I need you to stop what you're doing. I need you to listen to this very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you isn't about price movements. It's not about supply and demand. This is about the biggest fraud in the history of commodity markets being exposed in real time. We just received internal audit documents from a major precious metals custodian. The name doesn't matter. What matters is what they found when they tried to reconcile their physical inventory with their outstanding commitments. They found something that should be mathematically impossible: 50 million ounces of silver. The exact same 50 million ounces. Sold to 12 different banks. Not similar silver. Not equivalent silver. The exact same bars. With the exact same serial numbers. Listed as owned assets on 12 separate balance sheets across 3 continents. This isn't a mistake. This isn't an accounting error. This is systematic, deliberate, industrial-scale rehypothecation. The same physical metal has been pledged as collateral, sold as inventory, and recorded as assets by 12 major financial institutions simultaneously. Do you understand what this means? 12 banks think they own 50 million ounces that only exists once. That's 600 million ounces of claims backed by 50 million ounces of metal. That's a 12-to-1 fractional reserve system hiding in plain sight. The leaked documents show serial number matches across vault records in London, New York, and Zurich. Bar number LN4479-2847. Same bar. Listed as property of Deutsche Bank in Frankfurt, property of HSBC in London, property of Credit Suisse in Zurich. All claiming full ownership. All using it as collateral for other trades. This is where the system stops making sense. This is where 30 years of paper manipulation meets physical reality. Because someone started asking questions. Someone wanted to take delivery. The documents show that last week, 3 of these 12 banks simultaneously demanded physical allocation of their 50 million ounce positions. Not cash settlement, physical bars. They wanted the metal moved to their own private vaults. That's when the house of cards started shaking. Because you can't deliver the same 50 million ounces to 3 different locations. Physics doesn't work that way. You can print infinite paper claims, but you can't duplicate matter. The custodian tried to stall. They offered premium cash settlements. They suggested equivalent allocations from other lots. But these banks weren't interested in alternatives. They wanted their specific silver. The silver they had been paying storage fees on for years. This is where things get darker. The audit trail shows this isn't an isolated incident. The same pattern exists across multiple custodians, multiple metals, multiple continents. The entire precious metals storage industry appears to be running a massive shell game with client assets. Think about the implications. If this 50 million ounce fraud is just one example, how much phantom metal is floating through the system? How many banks think they own silver that doesn't exist? How many pension funds, how many sovereign wealth funds have been sold the same bar? The leaked documents reveal something even more terrifying. Chain of custody records showing the same silver bars being transferred between institutions multiple times per day. Bar XY77219943 shows ownership transfers to 7 different entities in a single trading session. 7 sales of the same physical metal in 6 hours. This explains everything. It explains why physical premiums have been exploding. It explains why delivery delays have stretched to months. It explains why every time someone demands large-scale physical settlement, the entire market convulses. The banks thought they were playing with paper. They thought they could trade digital claims forever without anyone checking the basement. But someone went to the basement. Someone counted the bars, and the numbers don't add up. What happens next is predictable and terrifying. When word spreads that the same inventory has been sold to multiple buyers, every bank that thinks they own physical metal is going to demand immediate audit verification. They're going to want to see their specific bars. They're going to want independent confirmation that their silver actually exists. The custodians can't comply. They can't show 12 banks the same 50 million ounces. They can't produce 600 million ounces from 50 million ounces of inventory. The math breaks down. The system implodes. This morning, 3 major precious metals dealers suspended client withdrawals pending systems upgrades. 2 large custodian vaults announced temporary processing delays for physical allocations. This isn't coincidence. This is panic containment. The leaked documents show emergency conference calls between the major players, desperate attempts to coordinate a response before the public catches on. But you can't coordinate physics. You can't coordinate inventory that doesn't exist. The transcripts from these calls are devastating. One executive from a major London vault admits, "We've been operating on the assumption that less than 8% of allocated clients would ever demand simultaneous physical delivery. That assumption just became fatal." Another voice on the call, identified as senior management from a Swiss custodian, responds, "Our legal department is telling us that if this becomes public knowledge, we're looking at criminal fraud charges across multiple jurisdictions. We sold the same inventory to institutional clients who paid full storage premiums for exclusive ownership." But here's where it gets even more twisted. The leaked documents reveal that some of these custodians knew about the multiple ownership problem and actively covered it up. Internal memos from 18 months ago show explicit discussions about managing allocation conflicts and optimizing storage efficiency through strategic inventory overlap. Strategic inventory overlap. That's corporate speak for selling the same bars to multiple owners and hoping they never find out. The audit trail shows something even more sinister. When conflicts arose, when 2 banks wanted to move the same bars, the custodians didn't confess to the double selling. They secretly borrowed silver from other accounts to cover the shortfall. They robbed Peter to pay Paul, creating an ever-expanding web of phantom ownership. One leaked spreadsheet titled Allocation Conflicts Q3 lists over 400 separate incidents where the same physical bars were claimed by multiple owners. 400 incidents in 3 months. This wasn't occasional mismanagement. This was systematic deception on an industrial scale. The document shows how they resolved these conflicts. Account shuffling, creative reassignment of serial numbers, emergency purchases from spot markets to cover gaps. But each resolution created new problems. Each borrowed bar from account A to satisfy account B left account A vulnerable to its own allocation conflict. It's a shell game played with other people's wealth. A Ponzi scheme where the collateral is strategic metals. And like all Ponzi schemes, it works perfectly until too many people want their money back at the same time. The leaked emails reveal something that should terrify every precious metals investor. The fraud isn't limited to silver. The same rehypothecation practices appear across gold, platinum, and palladium storage. One internal report estimates that across all 4 metals, the actual physical inventory represents only 14% of the outstanding ownership claims. 14%. That means for every 100 ounces that investors think they own, only 14 ounces actually exist in the vaults. The rest is accounting fiction, backed by legal disclaimers buried in 40-page custodial agreements. The documents show how the fraud escalated during crisis periods. During market stress, when clients demanded physical delivery, the custodians couldn't source enough metal to satisfy demand. So they got creative. They started issuing delivery certificates for metal that didn't exist, promising future allocation from incoming deposits. But the incoming deposits never materialized. Industrial demand consumed available supply. Mining production remained flat. The gap between promises and reality widened into a chasm. One particularly damning email thread discusses the Halloween strategy, their internal code name for dealing with allocation conflicts around high-demand periods. Quote, "If we can delay physical settlements until after year-end reporting, we can use Q1 inflows to cover Q4 shortfalls. Clients won't notice if we're creative with delivery timing." End quote. They were using new client deposits to pay old client withdrawal demands. Classic Ponzi structure applied to precious metals custody. The leaked documents also reveal coordination between different custodians to share phantom inventory. When custodian A couldn't deliver to client X, they would arrange for custodian B to deliver similar bars to client X, while simultaneously claiming those bars were custodian B's property on their own books. It's musical chairs with metallic assets. Everyone keeps moving. Everyone keeps dancing. And nobody wants to count the actual chairs, because everyone knows there aren't enough. But the music just stopped. The leaked audit represents the moment someone actually counted the inventory. And the count doesn't match the claims. Not even close. The ripple effects are already starting. 3 major precious metals ETFs have quietly suspended creation of new shares pending inventory verification procedures. 2 large coin dealers have extended delivery times from weeks to months with vague explanations about supply chain optimization. This morning, I received calls from contacts at 4 different institutional investors, all reporting the same thing. Their custodians are suddenly requiring enhanced documentation for any physical withdrawal requests above certain thresholds. Enhanced documentation is banker speak for stalling tactics. One internal memo from a major vault operator reveals their true desperation. Quote, "We need to immediately implement withdrawal limitations while maintaining plausible operational justifications. Any admission of inventory shortfalls will trigger cascade failures across the entire custody network." End quote. But the containment efforts are failing. The leaked documents include a classified briefing prepared for central bank governors across 7 countries. The briefing's executive summary is devastating. Current precious metals custody practices represent systemic risk to global financial stability. Estimated phantom claims exceed physical backing by factor of 6.7 to 1 across major custodial networks. 6.7 to 1. For every ounce of real metal in the vaults, there are nearly 7 ounces worth of ownership claims outstanding. This isn't fractional reserve banking. This is fractional reserve physics. And physics doesn't negotiate. The briefing reveals emergency coordination attempts between central banks and major custodians. Secret meetings in Basel. Closed-door sessions at the Bank for International Settlements. Desperate attempts to engineer a soft landing for a system that's been built on mathematical impossibilities. One particularly revealing section details the cascade failure scenarios that keep central bankers awake at night. If major institutional investors simultaneously demand physical verification of their precious metals holdings, the resulting inventory shortfalls could trigger bank runs, sovereign debt crises, and currency collapses across multiple G20 economies. The leaked documents include technical forensics that expose exactly how the fraud was perpetuated. Digital inventory management systems were deliberately programmed with flexible allocation protocols that allowed the same physical bars to appear in multiple client accounts simultaneously. The software included features with names like optimal inventory utilization and dynamic allocation balancing, corporate euphemisms for selling the same assets to multiple buyers. The programmers who built these systems knew exactly what they were enabling. Internal emails from the software development teams are included in the leak. One developer explicitly asks, "Are we certain this multi-claim functionality is legal?" The system allows theoretically unlimited claims against finite physical inventory. The response from management. Legal has approved the feature set. Focus on performance optimization, not policy questions. They built fraud into the code. They automated deception. They created computer systems specifically designed to hide the fact that they were selling the same metal over and over again to different buyers. The leaked documents also reveal how the custodians manipulated physical audits to hide the fraud. When third-party auditors came to verify inventory, the custodians would temporarily borrow metal from other vaults, show it to the auditors, then secretly return it after the audit was complete. One leaked email chain discusses the audit shuffle protocol. Quote, "Transport crew needs to move Block 7 inventory to Facility C before Thursday inspection. Return Saturday after auditor departure. Standard verification theater." End quote. Verification theater. They turned precious metals auditing into a stage performance. They moved the same props from venue to venue, showing auditors phantom inventory that would disappear as soon as the auditors left. The international implications are staggering. The leaked documents show that sovereign wealth funds from 12 different countries have been sold overlapping claims to the same precious metals inventory. When these governments discover that their national reserves are phantom assets, the geopolitical consequences will be seismic. One section of the briefing discusses specific sovereignty exposure incidents. Nation A believes it owns 50 tons of gold in Vault X. Nation B also believes it owns the same 50 tons. Both nations have been paying storage fees. Both nations consider this metal part of their strategic reserves. Both nations are wrong. Emergency legal teams are already being assembled. The leaked documents include invoices for crisis management consultants, international arbitration specialists, and criminal defense attorneys. The custodial industry is preparing for legal warfare on multiple continents simultaneously. But legal preparation can't solve physics problems. You can't lawyer your way out of selling the same metal to 12 different buyers. You can't arbitrate away inventory that doesn't exist. You can't negotiate with mathematics. The documents reveal that some custodians are desperately attempting to source physical metal from any available source to cover their shortfalls. Emergency purchases from private collectors, acquisition approaches to industrial stockpiles, even discussions about purchasing metal from national mints at premium prices to prevent client defaults. But the volumes are too large. The leaked spreadsheets show combined shortfalls across major custodians exceeding 200 million ounces of silver equivalent. There isn't enough spare metal in the entire global market to cover gaps of this magnitude. One particularly desperate internal memo discusses the settlement cascade protocol. When they can't deliver physical metal to Client A, they offer Client A financial settlement at current market prices plus penalties. They use that cash to purchase physical metal for Client B at any available price. But Client C still can't be satisfied, so the cascade continues. It's a wealth transfer mechanism disguised as an inventory management problem. Early clients get financial settlements. Late clients get nothing. The custodians keep the difference and hope nobody notices the timing pattern. Real-time vault inspections are happening across 3 continents as institutional clients demand immediate verification of their holdings. Teams of independent auditors are simultaneously showing up at major custody facilities, demanding to see specific bars with specific serial numbers. The vault operators can't accommodate these requests because the bars don't exist where they're supposed to exist. They've been promised to multiple owners. They've been moved to cover other audit gaps. They've been sold into spot markets to raise cash for legal fees. One leaked security briefing discusses hostile audit scenarios where multiple clients demand simultaneous access to the same inventory. Quote, If Client A and Client B both demand immediate physical verification of bar series XF4400 through XF4499 within the same audit window, operational exposure becomes unavoidable. End quote. They're treating legitimate client requests like hostile actions. They're calling basic inventory verification a hostile audit because they know the inventory doesn't exist to be verified. Force majeure, the nuclear option. The legal declaration that extraordinary circumstances prevent contract fulfillment. They're preparing to default on physical delivery because they sold the same metal too many times. But here's the truly insidious part. These aren't rogue traders making bad bets. This appears to be standard operating procedure across the industry. The documents suggest that fractional reserve precious metals storage has been the norm for decades. The entire system has been running on rehypothecated air. Every time you thought you were buying physical silver, you were buying a claim on silver that might not exist. Every time you paid storage fees, you were paying to store metal that was simultaneously stored for 11 other people. The vault industry has been running the ultimate Ponzi scheme with the world's monetary metals. The implications ripple through everything. If major banks discover their precious metals reserves are phantom, their risk calculations collapse. If sovereign reserves turn out to be accounting fiction, confidence in the entire monetary system cracks. If industrial users can't access the silver they contracted for, supply chains freeze. This is why silver prices have been acting so strangely. This is why small moves create massive volatility. The market has been operating on fictional supply numbers. When reality meets fiction, the fiction burns. The leaked audit documents are spreading through professional trading networks. By tomorrow, every major precious metals player will have seen the evidence. By next week, the demands for physical verification will start flooding in. By next month, the system either confesses to the fraud or collapses under the weight of impossible delivery demands. We're watching the breakdown of the fractional reserve precious metal system in real time. The same system that kept physical prices artificially suppressed for decades is now eating itself alive. The rehypothecation monster has grown too large to feed. What started as one whistleblower's audit has become an avalanche of evidence. More custodians are being forced to admit inventory discrepancies. More banks are discovering their metal doesn't exist. More clients are demanding answers that can't be given. The 50 million ounce fraud isn't the disease, it's the symptom. The disease is a system built on selling the same assets multiple times to multiple buyers while hoping nobody ever checks. That hope just died. By the time the mainstream media admits what's happening, the physical metal will be long gone from public markets. By the time regulators announce investigations, the vault doors will be locked and the legal disclaimers will be flowing. The smart money isn't waiting for official confirmation. They're acting on the leaked proof. If this continues, the price won't be the real problem. The real problem will be that there won't be a market left to have a price.